Luckily, don't even worry, she took drama as one of her electives back in preschool, and this is her final project for her drama elective. And you know what? Feyre's gonna get an A+. And not only because Reese is her only teacher. Hi, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to Prythian. We are headed into my absolute favorite book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. I was not on board with Sarah J. Maas until I finished this book. I almost stopped the series after A Court of Mist and Fury. I know that's not the popular opinion, but I have talked about, if you watch my Mist and Fury videos, about how I kind of struggled with that book at times. This book for me really clinched it. This is the reason I continued with Sarah J. Maas. This is the reason I read Throne of Glass. This is the reason we're here today. I just think this book brings the original trilogy of Court of Thorns and Roses together so stunningly. I'm so excited to be talking about it with you. I'm so excited to be back in it. Okay, before we jump into the recap itself, I wanted to do a little self-promo. Of course, this video is brought to you by my Patreon. I recently started a Patreon, and there are two kind of main tiers. There's a third tier that is just in case anyone has extra disposable income and they really just would like to spend it on me. I just want to give you the opportunity to do so. But the two main tiers are our book besties, the Besties Book Club, which is just a monthly book club. I just actually finished the recording for this week's episode. We're doing The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig, and I'm loving it. So far, I've only read the first 9 chapters because that's what we're reading for week 1, but I'm obsessed with it. So every week I'll be sharing a little, essentially podcast episode, little voice memo with my thoughts on the chapters for that week, my first impressions, kind of what I'm thinking and feeling about the book so far, along with any thoughts. This one definitely has some pictures that I'm going to include as well in the Patreon post description, and we'll be doing that for every week. And then at the end of the month, I'll do one video where I talk about my thoughts on the book as a whole. And then the second tier is the Recap Society, and that is going to be where I'm doing kind of additional recaps that I just don't have time for on the main channel. That's actually the reason I started this Patreon, was because I really wanted to do a From Blood and Ash recap before we got to the newest From Blood and Ash book that comes out in the end of September. And so right now we're kicking things into high gear, and every Monday, I've been posting a video with me recapping one of the books in the series. The videos are substantially more casual than what I'm doing over here. There's no visual element really. I mean, you can see my little face, and occasionally I'll pop up a picture here and there, but the elaborate slide decks are not happening. But they have been so fun. The Crown of Gilded Bone is the most recent one that just came out as of recording, and I'm obsessed with it. I think it's such a fun video. I had a really great time. It's not my favorite book in the series. I'm a little bit of a whiner about it, and you can hear me whining about it, and I hope a funny way, over on the Patreon. So we'd love to have you over there if that is something you're interested in, or if you just want to support me financially in any capacity. I really, really appreciate it. Love everyone, and appreciate everyone who is already over there supporting me. I hope you're enjoying what's coming out. Yay, I'm so excited. Let's jump into it. We'll do the fastest recap in the West. I initially was recapping the whole series from the beginning. I had a page and a half of notes, and I was you know what? If you want the recap of the details of what happened for the rest of the series, I do have videos on that. So we'll just kind of catch you up to what got us to this moment. So Feyre, at the end of last book, everyone from the Night Court crew went to go nullify the cauldron, was the goal of what they were doing, and they did not nullify the cauldron. They kind of activated it instead. Oops. And Jurian, Eyeball Man, has been resurrected already, and Hybern seems to be working with the king of Hybern, whose overall goal seems to be taking over the human and fairy realms in Prythian. Elaine and Nesta kind of got caught in the crossfires of this. They were brought essentially by Tamlin via Ianthe to Hybern and were turned fey by dunking them in the cauldron. They're obviously not excited about this. Nesta gave the king she pointed at him, and it was a death promise. Love Nesta girl. And then we have Elaine, who was less aggressive, but Elaine fell out of the cauldron, and Lucian immediately was that's actually my mate. That's my mate. So that's another fun little layer of complication. And then Feyre, in order to get everyone out of there safely, she thought that the only option was for her to essentially pretend that she had been brainwashed by Rhysand in the Night Court, and pretend that she's dying to go back home with her love, Tamlin. And so she is currently in the Spring Court pretending that she was Stockholm syndromed by Rhysand. Although people are sort of aware of the mating bond, but maybe pretend think it Rhys faked it. I don't know what the situation there is. Some sort of whatever. So Feyre is playing the role of like perfect spring court bride. Meanwhile, she is actually like planting these seeds of like tension, trying to like crumble things from within, and also like spying on Hybern. Also, we find out at the very end that before Feyre and Rhys went to go nullify the cauldron, they got married and made Feyre the High Lady of the Night Court. So now, not only is she a spy, she is the High Lady. Ugh. We love. We get a little prologue in this book, and it is from Rhysand's perspective 2 years before the wall. So we're like in this big war that keeps being referenced. Rhysand is leading an army for his father that is a combination of mortals, and they've just brought in a bunch of backup Illyrians, and the battle has ended. They've won, but like the death toll is quite high, and we see him looking through the fields of the dead for Cass and Azriel, but not finding either of them among the dead. And he doesn't know if that's because they're alive or because they never came to this battle at all. I think they never came to this battle at all. I like kind of don't know what the point of this prologue is. I think it's just to remind us that like war is like a really bad time. And like Rhys has done it before. Like this is old news. Okay. Anyway, into the main part. This is part 1, Princess of Carrion. And we're in Feyre's perspective again. Feyre, we can catch up with Feyre, and she is painting in the spring court, and she's painting only nice pictures because she is being real sneaky about the fact that she is having a bad time and wants to go home. But she has to be sneaky about that because she's spying, she's doing work, she's working, she's on the clock. She is plotting revenge for both her sisters and the fact that her sisters were turned fae, even though they definitely didn't want that, and for Cassian, who was like gutted. I didn't mention that, but at Hybern, Cassian like was essentially like disemboweled, and his wings were like shredded, ripped up into little tatters. She's got a glamour hiding her new marks because she has like the marks from her original bargain that she made with Rhysand under the mountain, and now she has another like sleeve of tattoos that mark her as High Lady of the Night Court. Then we see her listening as Lucien and Tamlin come to bring her to the meeting with Ianthe. Ianthe, if we recall, is a high priestess in the spring court, and she and Feyre were like pals when she was there in the beginning of Mist and Fury, but Rhysand had some really bad experiences with her in which she did not take no as a no. She's just kind of like really power hungry and is willing to do almost anything to get there. And also, she was the one responsible for bringing Feyre's sisters to Hybern. So Feyre, of course, is not happy with her. And Tamlin's like, hey, girl, she really just wants to meet with you to explain her reasoning. Like, she has reasons. And Feyre looks over at Lucien, who's just like, here. Lucien's not my favorite. I know people love Lucien. It's not me. Not me. He's like a little bit too big of a pushover for me. He's just like standing there, and Feyre wonders if Lucien is mad about this whole situation too, since like Elaine is his mate now. So like the fact that Elaine was like put in the cauldron against her consent should be upsetting to him. But like Feyre and Lucien really haven't spoken about Elaine since she's been back in the spring court. Tamlin compliments her painting. He's like, oh my gosh, you're so gorgeous. You're doing such a great job. I'm so happy you're back. Aren't we having a nice time? Feyre goes up to change into a different dress, and Lucien is waiting for her when she emerges from her bedroom. Her old bedroom at some point while she was gone in Mist and Furyland has been shredded by Tamlin, so she's in a brand new room. Tamlin does not have great emotional management skills, okay? And there's no therapist in Prythian. They don't exist. So he does have a tendency to break all of his things when things don't go his way. So after Feyre was stolen in Mist and Fury, she kind of left of her own volition, but like sort of stolen. He thinks she was stolen. He did like explode her room. Lucien is waiting for her in the hallway, and Lucien says, you seem pretty calm for someone who threatened to kill everyone connected to her sister's capture and turning. And Feyre said, okay, Tamlin said she had her reasons. Furious as I might be, I can hear her out. Talking about Ianthe, of course. And Lucien says, she's going to spin some story that you want to hear. You know that's how she works. And so clearly we get the impression pretty quickly that Lucien is not interested in forgiving Ianthe, and he is also not buying Feyre's little act entirely of like being a happy little camper in spring court and trying to like ensure that this alliance with Hybern is like successful. Like Lucien doesn't buy it. And Lucien's like, where is he keeping her? Meaning like Rhys and Elaine. And Feyre's like, I don't know. There are hundreds of places he could be, but I would doubt he would use any of them to hide Elaine because I know about them. So I'm sure she's somewhere super, super duper secret. Elaine is 100% just like at Rhys's house, and she knows this. But it's in Valaris, and she like obviously is not going to tell the boys about Valaris. Also, she doesn't want Lucien to have Elaine. So that's another reason she won't tell him. Lucian's like, please just tell me what some of them might be anyway. Like, I'll go look for them. And Feyre's like, it's too dangerous. You'd die the moment you set foot in his territory. And Lucien like continues to argue with her about it. Like, he is just like desperate to get Elaine back. And Feyre's like, you don't even know Elaine. She is a stranger to you. The mating bond is just a physical reaction that is overriding your good sense. You know you should stay out of the night court. And Lucien is like, that's so interesting. Is that what it did to you and Rhys? And Feyre has to like channel her memories of her time under the mountain to like evoke some fear in herself, because she needs to like smell like fear when she says to him, I don't want to talk about it. Ugh, she's an actress. Give her the Oscar. In the meeting with Ianthe, Feyre is like so mad. She's so mad, but she's like doing a pretty good job of keeping it together. Luckily, don't even worry, she took drama as one of her electives back in reschool, and this is her final project for her drama elective. And you know what? Feyre's gonna get an A+. And not only because Rhys is her only teacher. Ianthe apologizes. She's like, I really thought that you would want your sisters to be immortal. I thought that would be like fun. I like really did think that would be kind of like a good time for you. It would like give us an alliance with Hybern and give you immortal sisters. Double win for us. And Feyre's like, hey, why would I ever wish for my sisters to endure that? And Ianthe is like, so you could be with them forever and ever and ever. And Lucien says, if you are expecting our gratitude, you'll have to wait a while. And Ianthe's like, I mean, obviously not. Like, I understand that you weren't obsessed with it, but like, we still have to work together to prepare for Hybern's arrival and to keep our lands and our people safe. I like really don't think we have to. I think Tamlin could have killed her. And probably should have. And then Lucien's like, I don't know if we want to be besties with Hybern. They seem evil, actually, if we think about it. Like, we'll need to be extraordinarily careful if we're allied with the evil people. And Tamlin says, we will be. We will be. Don't even worry, bestie. We've already agreed to a bunch of terms. And Ianthe says, okay, I like totally see that. I see where you're coming from. I will endeavor to be worthy of my friends. And Lucien just like tries not to roll his eyes at like the dramatics. And Tamlin says, we will all try that. We're all going to try to be worthy of our friends. And like, look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. None of you guys, like only one of you sold out sisters to Hybern. Actually, maybe two. We could consider Blondie to be included. Lucien, for some reason, is not included. He's like, I didn't know where we were going. I don't know. I want to implicate Lucien more than I think the book wants to implicate Lucien. Feyre is like, don't ever do anything like that ever again. Okay? Which, like, I don't know how how many opportunities do you really have? I mean, you don't have that many family members left, Feyre. She could turn your dad Fae. Papa Archeron. That'd be just more annoying than anything else. And Feyre says, also, the people of this court have suffered enough. Not sure how well they will endure living beside Hybern. And Tamlin is like, don't even worry. Hybern says they're not going to bother literally anyone. Also, I did tell everyone who lived close to the wall to move. So they won't even see Hybern. And Tamlin's like, anyway, Hybern is getting here tomorrow. And Jurian actually should be here by noon. So, yay, everyone get excited. Feyre hadn't gotten really any updates on Jurian since that night they experienced in Hybern a couple weeks ago at this point. She is like, honestly, no one seems as upset about this whole situation as they should be. Neither Tamlin nor Lucien seem as upset as they should be. Tamlin is like trying to be better. He's trying not to be so controlling. The situation that really caused that explosion during like Mist and Fury. And Feyre is getting invited into all of these meetings that are like discussing what the plans are for the war and the politics of the court so far. Feyre's first mission as her role within the Night Court is to figure out where Hybern plans to attack the wall so that they can defend things. Currently, the cauldron is resting. It is very sleepy after turning her sisters, so they know that this is not like an urgent pressing thing, but should be coming once the cauldron like kind of reactivates. Feyre sends everything she learns about their plan so far down the bond to Rhys. She doesn't open the bond very often because she's worried that people might be able to sense it. Fae senses are obviously extraordinary and like they might be able to smell the bond or something, you know. So she keeps it on the DL. It feels like shouting down a very long tunnel or like speaking underwater. And to be honest, those things feel quite different to me. Those don't feel like the same feeling at all. So I'm not sure how it feels like both of those things. Because like shouting down a very long tunnel, it's auditory. I don't like, when you're shouting underwater, you're like not actually making noise. I don't know. Those don't seem like, I don't know why we needed both metaphors because neither, like pick one. Pick one, because those feel quite different. Now I'm more confused than I was before. Jurian arrives. He looks the same as he did a few weeks ago. Okay. Like I imagine he would. Like, unless he got, like, a haircut. Like, it's only been a couple weeks. He also arrives with two of Hybern's commanders, and they are twins, Prince Dagon and Prince Bragon. Princess Brannog. Okay? the niece and nephew of King of Hybern. They're twins. I'm obsessed with the fact they're twins. I think that's really fun. I'm glad Sarah decided that that's what they were going to be, because I think it's cool. And the twins are like, or Tamlin's like, welcome to my house. We have rooms prepared for you. And the twins are like, great, we need the same room, actually. We need to sleep in the same room. And everyone's like, okay. And they're like very blatantly staring at Feyre. And then Tamlin's like, stop staring at my girlfriend. And Jurian's like, they're just curious about her. And Feyre says, perhaps if you'd bothered going to war over Miriam, she wouldn't have left you for Prince Draken. Whoa. Seems like shots fired. Feyre's entering the relationship with Jurian in a hostile vibe. I mean, he did like kind of try to murder her friends and contributed to her sisters getting turned Fae. I totally get that, but like, okay. Also, I don't know if we should advocate for a romance-based war. Like, I don't think he should have fought Prince Draken for Miriam. And Jurian, obviously not loving this hostile vibe, says, careful what you say, girl. And Feyre says, or what? You'll throw me in the cauldron? First rule of this visit, don't threaten me in my own house. These words are actually for Tamlin, because she wants him to see that she sees this place as her home. Feyre is always working on, like, she's playing 3D chess here. She's really thinking things through. The princess is definitely the boss in the twins' relationship, and they do seem to have, like, mental mind reading powers, at least between each other. And Feyre is being extra careful to keep her mental shields up because she's worried that they're Damati and will be able to, like, sneak in there. And she doesn't want that. So she's keeping her shields up locked tight. They plan to go visit the wall the next day along with Jurian and some sentries to kind of like guide them and show them where the holes in the wall currently are. And then Feyre volunteers Lucian and her to go with them as well. And Tamlin is trying so hard. He's being on his bestest behavior, and so he doesn't even tell her no. You might think Feyre is impressed with this, but she's not, because she's like, you know what? I cannot believe this man who fell in love with a human girl is just letting these guys go through the wall to bring it down and to kill and enslave all the humans again. But she's, again, playing it cool, using her actor training, all those improv games she played back in Reschool. And Jurian, the vibes are rude. Never go to any event at Spring Court, or Night Court, honestly, in the Feylands. They're not nice. Jurian says to Lucian, I always wondered who made that eye after she carved it out. Sorry, this is like low-key rude breakfast conversation. Also, you literally were just an eyeball, Jurian, so I don't know if you really have space to talk. Like, you were an eyeball. Maybe that's he now has, like, particular interest in eyeballs. Maybe this is his special interest now. I didn't think about that. I guess that's fair. And then Lucian's like, well, a friend of Tamlin's made it for me. And Jurian teases about him and his mate and makes a comment about how Elaine is probably being treated by the Illyrians and how they're probably just, like, passing her around. Tamlin is like, enough, Jurian, you will behave as a proper guest or you will sleep in the stable like the other beasts. Okay. Then Jurian turns to Feyre because he says, okay. And then he turns to Feyre and it continues to be rude. And he says, I fought alongside Rhys in the war. Just a reminder that I do know your friend. Also, where are Miriam and Draken? And Feyre's like, they're dead. What are you talking about? Who? They're dead in the ground, probably. And Jurian says, no, the cauldron says otherwise. And Feyre's like, I don't know. They told me that they were dead. Like, I have as much information as you do. But don't you have better things to obsess over rather than your ex? And Jurian said, they said you were sleeping with Rhys before you even broke up with Tamlin. Tamlin's like, stop, don't bring that up. That is very sensitive for me. And then Feyre feels the twins going for her mind. She can feel them at the walls of her mind. And clearly they're just using Jurian as like a distraction to get like everyone riled up so they're not checking their mental shields. And she's worried that the boys, Blondie and Redhead, over here, don't have their mental shields up. She has to go over and batten down the hatches, make sure that they're locked away. And then she goes to the twin shields and she takes her claws and she drags them down the twin shields to let her know that she's onto them. She might be a pretty princess, but she will also scratch your brain, and not in a cute way. The next day, they're headed out to the wall. It's the twins, Lucian, Jurian, Feyre, and they've also brought a couple of sentries with them. Feyre kept an eye on the house most of the night, the manor, mentally, to keep an eye on what the Jurian and the twins were doing, so she's pretty sleepy. Luckily, it doesn't seem like the twins are really up to anything. Tim Tam was very nervous to let them go this morning, but he let them go without incident. Again, he's trying his best, and he doesn't even have access to a therapist. And I do think he maybe gets 1 point for that. 1 point. He's down negative 589 points, but he gets 1 point for trying his hardest in this situation. So we're slowly moving our way out of the red. They arrive at the wall and Feyre can immediately sense the power. It is not a physical wall, I don't actually think. I actually think it is just a like magic wall. So they can only feel the hole as they arrive at the wall. It's like pretty small. It's only big enough for like one person to pass through. And they mentioned that there are only 3 holes along the entire border. And I think they're all fairly small. There's one more that's like off the coast. But the twins are like, that won't be helpful to our plans. They're going to need to break through in the land. And then Feyre's like, okay, bye. Have fun exploring the hole. We will chill until you're ready to go check out the next hole. And Lucian's like, what do you mean? That's like 2 days away. We can't go just like check out the next hole. And Feyre's like, okay, we'll plan a little trip. Can y'all winnow? Can you two winnow? And the boy twin can, but only like a few miles at a time if he has to carry people. And he's going to have to carry Jurian and his girly sister. So he's not gonna be able to go very far. And Lucian's like, whatever you are up to, they like leave the Hybern people. And then Lucian says to Feyre, whatever you're up to, it's gonna get us in trouble. And Feyre's like, I'm literally not even doing anything. Don't you trust me? And then they talk about the last war, and Lucian is like, I would have fought with the humans if I was old enough. He was just a babe when the last war happened. And he's like, 1, because I believe that humans should not be slaves. And 2, because I would be against my father in any war. Down with Baron, High Lord of the Autumn Court. And Feyre's like, okay, that's so interesting because you're currently helping Hybern. So confused. And Lucian is like, I did it for you too. I went with him to go get you back. And he talks about how terrible it was to find her gone when she fled the Spring Court. And Feyre's like, okay, well, thanks for coming to Hybern to get me. And Lucian was like, it was a trap. What I thought we were to do there. It didn't turn out the way I thought it was going to. Like, I don't know what you thought was going to happen, Lucian. Again, Lucian is like, I am so, like, he's like, I couldn't have known. Nobody told me. Like, Lucian, use a brain cell. You were going to go to the evil guys? How did you think you were going to get Feyre back? You didn't think the evil guys were going to have a trap for you? Once again, did you think you and Tim Tam were going out for ice cream? Like, I do not, sorry, I still blame you for this. And I hope Elaine does too. And Feyre's like, also, do not let Jurian bait you. He's like trying to find weaknesses between you and Tamlin and you and me. Also, why does Hybern want to do this besides some horrible desire for conquest? What drives him? His people? Hatred? Arrogance? But before Lucian can kind of like give an answer to that, Jurian comes back, cheesing as he catches Lucian and Feyre like a little too close together, whispering back and forth. Ianthe is there when they get back. She wasn't there when the Hybern gang first arrived, but she's back now. She's back in business. She wanted to make a grand entrance, obviously. And Jurian is annoyed with her almost immediately. Immediately, like, doesn't like her vibe. She's waiting for them again when they return from this trip to the wall. And she's like asking how it went. And Feyre is so sore because she hasn't ridden a horse in so long that she has to get Lucian's help to get off the horse. He's very nice about it. And Feyre thinks to herself, it was hard sometimes to remember to hate him, to remember the game I was already playing. Again, I'm just like, Lucian is never going to be for me. And that's okay. He's for someone else. Ianthe again asked them about like how the journey went. And then she's like, also, I need Feyre's help in planning our Summer Solstice party for our guests. And she's like, so Feyre and I need to go chat. And Lucian is very, very hostile to Ianthe. And Feyre kind of asks him what the deal about that is because the vibes are not good between the two of them. And he explains that when Tamlin wouldn't do Callan Mai because Feyre had just been captured, he was so sad that Lucian had to do it with Ianthe. And Callan Mai is the like spring equinox. The Spring Court has to restore their powers, and they do so by sending the High Lord, normally Tamlin, and a maiden into a cave where they get up to the hanky-panky, and that fuels magic for everyone. Okay? So Lucian had to do it, and the vibes are clearly like things got not consensual. It doesn't seem like it went well. And Lucian says to Feyre, like, please don't tell Elaine. And Feyre can, like, tell that this was, like, quite traumatic for him, even though she doesn't know the details, and she promises not to say anything to anyone. And she's like, you know what? I'm so sorry I wasn't there to stop it. Like, I'm sorry that happened to you, and I'm sorry you didn't have a friend to, like, step in and be like, that's not okay. And Lucian says to her, you are a better friend to me, Feyre, than I ever was to you. And that's also true. Alice is trying to find an outfit for Feyre. They're kind of like trying to plan for like Summer Solstice that's coming up in a couple days. They're trying to find a dress for her to wear to the party, but she doesn't fit into any of the dresses she wore last time she was at Spring Court because she was like withering away last time she was here, and now she's like put on some weight. She has like definitely been like training and eating and like has like filled out. Feyre thinks to herself, is a kind of explanation of this, for a woman who had been tortured and tormented for months, I looked remarkably well. And she thinks about how we get like a little recap of the past couple days since the royals have been here. She's been sitting in on all of these meetings and just kind of like lying about things about the Night Court, like about where things are located or like where the strongest Illyrian clans are, just like weaving truths and lies together in a way that is going to make it believable. Like no one's going to like catch her immediately, but also that puts the night court not at an advantage because everyone has been misinformed about them. Anyway, back to the dresses. Feyre is like, I can't wear the pink and the green ones. I've already worn those 3 times already. And Alice is like, you didn't used to care about those things. And Feyre says, oh, am I not allowed to change my mind? And Alice is like, you could wear this. And it's one of the outfits that Feyre wore home from the night court on those days when she, like, her, like, weekly visits with Rhysand. And Feyre is like, oh, I have never known you to be so cruel, Alice. And Alice literally laughs at her. And she's like, Tamlin shredded the other 2 sets, but he missed this one because it was in the wrong drawer. Alice, let me talk to you. Alice, come here. Don't get on my bad side. You were the most unhelpful lady when Feyre was, like, withering away here. You were the one who, like, most clearly saw what was happening to Feyre, and you were just like, that's a real bummer. After she saved your whole family under the mountain. After you, like, reverse psychology her into Under the Mountain. You act like you're friends with Feyre, but you've never done anything helpful for Feyre in your life, Alice. So I'm going to need you to stop sassing her. Anyway, Alice says, I was there the day when the Morrigan came. I begged her to take you out. I never told them what actually happened. I'd let them think you'd been kidnapped, but you clung to her, and she was willing to slaughter all of us for what had happened. Feyre was like, that's not what happened. I don't know what you're talking about. And Alice is like, servants talk, and none of them talked about Rhysand being mean to them under the mountain. She's like, the servants would say, yes, he would, like, be cruel to Amarantha's cronies and anyone that Amarantha asked him to kill, of course, but, like, never those who are unable to defend themselves. And Feyre's like, he is a monster. And Alice says, they say you came back different, came back wrong. I never bothered to tell them that I think you came back right at last. Alice, come here, shut up. Shut up. Let Feyre play her little games, her little schemes. She saved your butt during Under the Mountain. She curse broke, and you couldn't have even done the slightest. I understand, like, it would have been a huge risk to help her escape from Spring Court. And, like, maybe you didn't know how to do that, but you were, like, so deeply unhelpful while she was in Spring Court. The least you can do for her is just, like, shut up and play along with whatever game she's doing, Alice. I'm sick of you. Anyway, then she brings up she has a cousin who works in the Palace of Summer Court, and she's like, it seems like when you were in the Summer Court, you had a great time. And Feyre's like, interesting. Yeah, everyone has a great time in Summer Court. It's the vibe. It's the vibe, Alice. Anyway, Alice finds her a cutie little white dress that she'll wear to Solstice. And then she says to Feyre, I will only say this once. Whatever you plan to do, I beg you, leave my boys out of it. Take whatever retribution you desire, but please spare them. And Feyre's like, I just want to settle back into life and heal. Once again, Alice, I bring up the fact that she saved your boy's booty when she broke the curse on Tamlin, and she shall do it again. You know she's a good person. Don't be rude. Summer solstice time. The festivities start before dawn because Ianthe is mean and makes everyone get up for, like, essentially, like, to thank the sun as it rises. And Feyre's like, I bet they don't have to do this shit in Summer Court. You know what? I bet Summer Court, they just have, like, a rager all day. I think Summer Solstice in Summer Court is probably such a bop, but it's a good time. And she's thinking about how Tarquin, how she, like, was almost friends with Tarquin, but then stole from him, and so then they were not friends, and how Tarquin never did snitch on them to Tamlin. Like, he did keep that on the DL, even though he, like, threatened to tell Tamlin. He's such a good guy. She's dressed all in white, looking, like, so angelic, as they all are on horseback. We learned that last Summer Solstice was the Summer Solstice where she, like, kissed Tamlin for the first time. And this is, like, the first time I've realized that all of the books, essentially, from, like, halfway through ACOTAR to now, has taken place over the course of 1 year. She's been engaged twice. I think she was engaged, like, in total, maybe 48 hours in Night Court, but, like, still. She's been engaged twice, brutally tortured, and competed in a monthly competition for 2.5 months in Under the Mountain, learned to read, became a different species, became the High Lady in a single year. What have you done in the last year? Clearly not a quarter as much as Feyre Archeron. She's been so busy. Feyre's wondering if Tamlin is thinking about that kiss and whether he'll get her a new engagement ring, which would be really awkward because she is already married. But she melted her engagement ring when she ran away. And she's not sure if he's going to plan on getting a new one, if this will bring out the, like, romance vibes from last year when he was fiddle playing. I don't think we get any fiddling this year, and that's a real shame, Tamlin. Should have whipped out the fiddle. Everyone would have enjoyed it. Ianthe is up on this altar doing all of these prayers. They had planned and practiced them together, so Feyre kind of knows what's coming. And then, the twins are welcomed up to drink this blessed wine. Ianthe's got the altar set up so that the sun rises over the horizon. As the sun rises over the horizon, it'll raise like right between her upraised arms. Like, it's all like very carefully planned out. But what she doesn't know is that Feyre did a little sneaky business and moved the altar. So instead, the sun is going to shine directly onto Feyre. Like, Feyre is going to be directly illuminated by the sun. And it happens, and she channels her magic and allows it to make herself glow. And the crowd is murmuring about how she's the curse breaker and how she is blessed. For in all of her preening ceremonies and rituals, never had Ianthe revealed any sign of power or blessing. But Feyre Cursebreaker, who had led Prithian from tyranny and darkness, blessed, holy, undimming before evil. And she smiles over at Ianthe, and she lets a little bit of her wolf show. The rest of the festivities remain the same. Tamlin and Feyre like kind of sit and receive thanks from all of their subjects all morning, and then Feyre at midday kind of goes up into her room to freshen up at lunchtime. She sends a message down the bond, and she says to Rhys, "The longest day of the year. I wish I could spend it with you." And she knows that he would have just died for her little performance. As the teacher in the drama program at Rhys School, Rhys loves a good little theatrics, a little moment of pretending. Rhys actually maybe is most qualified to teach a drama class because he is a little faker all the time. Like, he's doing dramatics constantly. He loves little drama. I think he'd actually probably be good at it. And this, I want you to know, when I was making these notes, this did make me sob. This did make me cry. Like, maybe not sob, but like tears were like leaving my eyeballs down my cheeks. Like, it's the longest day of the year and I want to spend it with you. Like, girl, get a hold of yourself. I will say in my defense, when I was doing these notes, I was like very sleep deprived and my period was about to start. Things were looking rough for me, but it did do me in. I'm feeling much less emotional now, and it's kind of cuckoo bananas that this made me cry before. Rhys responds down the bond. "It'd be an honor to spend even a moment in the company of Feyre, Cauldron blessed." And Feyre asks, "Is everyone all right?" Rhys says, "Yes, as well as we can be. When do you come home to me?" And Feyre says, "Soon. Hybern is here. I'll be done soon." I truly don't know why this scene made me cry so hard. It's like sweet, but like, girl, get a grip. That afternoon, it's dancing time. Tamlin and Feyre dance together, and Feyre has to work hard to keep smiling. She thinks to herself, "It was hard work to smile and to remember to laugh when my hands were within strangling distance of his throat." I love how mad she is. Nesta, I'm just thinking about my girl. Nesta's not here. Tamlin checks in about how she's feeling about what happened this morning. And Feyre's like, "I don't know. Should I apologize to Ianthe? She seems kind of upset." And Tamlin is like, "For what? It was a blessing. If she's angry, it's her problem." And then Feyre asks about like Calamine and what happened on Calamine. They talk about that a little bit. That night at dinner, Tamlin makes Feyre a plate and they like sit together and they like watch the dancing. And it's like really beautiful and everyone's having like a really lovely time. It's like a really lovely evening. And Feyre thinks to herself, "I nearly asked if it was worth it, if giving up this sort of peace was worth it in order to have me back. For Hybern would have come here, used these lands, and there would be no more singing and dancing, not once they arrived." Feyre goes to bed around midnight. She's like kind of sleepy, so she heads to bed early. She has Lucien escort her back to the house because he doesn't want to dance with the girls at all. He's like not interested in any other females because of the mating bond situation with Elaine. She lays in her bed. She tosses and turns for half an hour, which is like a long time to one, toss and turn if you're like truly tossing and turning, but also like not that long if you're like really trying to go to sleep. I feel like 30 minutes, I haven't fallen asleep yet. Like that's a little bit of a bummer, but not like something I'm gonna like lose my brains over. But don't worry, it's all part of her scheme. She's letting the worst of her memories come to the front of her brain. Like she's thinking about Under the Mountain and the Midgard worm and the Weaver and all that nasty stuff. And then she screams, just like a little cute, short little one, a little ee! And then she scurries on over to Lucian's room. And Lucien is like, "Hey, are you okay?" He doesn't have a shirt on. Obviously, he was going to bed. He was going night-night. He didn't have a shirt on. He doesn't have pants on. And Feyre's like, "I dreamt of Under the Mountain. And when I wake up, I can't remember where I am or when I am." Girl, it's been 30 minutes since Lucien dropped you off at your room. Like, how much dreaming could you have gotten up to? But whatever. Lucien is like comforting. Amarantha had me spiked to the wall, like Claire better, and the adder was there, and she's like hugging him and crying, and he's like, you know, patting her on the back. He's trying to be soothing, comforting, nice. They're putties, they're pals. But oh no, who should walk in the door but Tim Tam, because Feyre obviously didn't close the door behind her. She left it cracked, and he says, "What's going on? Why is Feyre hugging shirtless Lucien?" And Feyre's like, "I had a nightmare." And Tamlin's just like staring daggers at Lucien, and Feyre is like, "Bye." Good night. And then Tamlin like follows her to like check on her, because if she had a nightmare, like he wants to check on her, Feyre closed the door right in his face. It was all part of Feyre's scheme. She knew Tamlin was going to come to her room that night because she was being flirty with him all day long. And so she changed into her tiniest little nightgown and waited until Tamlin was in the house. She has like little mental or like magical snare set up, so as soon as he walks in the house, she scurried over to Lucian's room. left the door ajar. And then, Tamlin caught them, and this is going to plant some seeds of tension between Tamlin and Lucien, of course. She thinks to herself, a nightmare. I told Tamlin I was the nightmare. Hi, we're back. You missed me probably like a lot. I missed you. It is breakfast the next day. Vibes are weird. I mean, Tamlin is still like kind of mad about the whole Lucien situation. He does think his bestie bro is trying to get with his girl, and that's really unfortunate. And I don't think I've mentioned it, but like Feyre has been like really pushing off intimacy with Tamlin, obviously, because she is married to another man, but like it's making him a little extra like sensitive to these sorts of things because Feyre is not showing up in his room in her cutest little tiny nightgown, Anyway, breakfast vibes are weird the next day. And the keys to the estate gates have gone missing, which seems like a big deal. Feyre's like, seems like maybe we should be concerned about this, but Tamlin's like, whatever, he doesn't really seem to care. The royals are like quite sullen and cranky. I don't remember why. I just put that they're sullen. I'm sure there's like a reason given, and Tamlin and Lucien clearly have like spoken, and Lucien is currently like keeping his distance from Feyre. And then Ianthe comes in. She's avoiding Feyre too. She's still a little mad about the whole Summer Solstice situation and that Feyre was the one that was blessed instead of her. And Ianthe says, I'm sorry to interrupt your meal, but there is a matter to discuss, High Lord. And then she makes it clear that she wants to speak with him alone. And then Feyre says, if we can trust our allies in Hybern to go to war with us, then we can trust them to use discretion. Go ahead, Ianthe. She's like, okay, Ianthe, it was your idea to have us partner up with Hybern for this war effort. So like, let's be besties with them. If you wanted to be friends with them, let's be friends with them. Let's see how it goes. And Tamlin is like, okay, let's hear it. And Ianthe says, my acolytes have discovered that the land around my temple is dying. And Prologue, the girl twin, says, then tell the gardeners. And Ianthe says, it's not a matter of gardening. It is a blight upon the land. Grass, root, bud, all of it shriveled up and sickly. It reeks of the Naga. And there are other spots in the woods where things have died and are not coming back. I fear that the Naga are planning to attack. And that their first signal to us that they're planning to attack is by killing all of my gardening. And Feyre is like, you know what, Ianthe, perhaps this is a job for the groundskeepers. It sounds like it. We are leaving for another field trip today. We have to go to the next hole in the wall. Literally, not hole in the wall as in like a restaurant you wouldn't expect to be good that has like sticky floors. Anyway, Feyre's like, we gotta go, but like if in a few days nothing has gotten better, if you like talk to the groundskeeper, they put some fertilizer out and things are still bad, I will help you look into like what it could be. But for now, let's go with maybe you just need to water a little bit more. It is summer after all. And Ianthe's like, Tamlin, are you going with them to the wall? And Feyre's like, no, he's not coming with us. And Tamlin's like, no, actually, I was thinking I should come with you. I was actually thinking maybe, yeah, I come this time. And Feyre's like, I don't need an escort. I will be fine with Lucien, and I can defend myself if it comes to that. Ianthe is like, you know what, Tamlin, I actually think it might be a good idea if you go, because, like, the Night Court might come and try to snatch Feyre up at any second. Like, we don't know. They're crazy. They might come in and try to snatch her. And Feyre's like, have you heard something? Did word about that, them wanting to snatch me up, come to you in some capacity? And Jurian's like, no, there is no news. Rhysand would be a fool to push his luck by coming here. Like, no, there's no way he's going to walk into Spring Court when you are, like, with Lucien on an official outing and try to snatch you. That doesn't make any sense. And Ianthe says, a fool, yes, but one with a vendetta. And then she turns to Tamlin and she's like, perhaps if you returned his family's wings, he might settle down. And Feyre, like, at the mention of his family's wings, gets really upset, obviously. Last book, that Tamlin and Tamlin's brothers and father had come to Night Court and killed Rhysand's mother and sister and took their wings and had their wings pinned up in his study as like a memento of this. And Feyre hadn't seen them, but was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. I think it was like one of the things that like really convinced her, like, oh, Tamlin is the villain in this story. Oh, okay, Blonde Man is the villain. He like didn't want to, but he also didn't stop it. Like, he was just very passive. Kind of like what's happening with Hybern. Like, is Tamlin the driving force behind, like, taking over the human world? No. But he is letting them use his, like, property as, like, a launch pad. So, that's not great. It's not ideal. And Tamlin says, I burned them long ago. And Feyre can kind of tell that there's, like, a lot of shame kind of wrapped up in this. That this is, like, that wasn't his proudest moment. And he's not thrilled about what he did. Oh my gosh, can you hear that? It just thundered really loud. Spooky. where was I? I had to go move my car because that thunderstorm, thunder reminded me that I had to park outside of the garage. And now I can move my car back into the garage. And I wanted to do that before like the thunderstorm arrived, because sometimes we get hail. Tamlin says, I burned him a long time ago. And Feyre is like really working hard to keep her cool because she's like really tapping into her reschool drama training. And Ianthe says, that's too bad. He probably would have paid handsomely for them. And Feyre is like, okay, anyway, back to me. I will be fine. Let's not start down this road again. And Tamlin is like, be careful. And this has two meanings. One, like, be careful, don't like get eaten or whatever. Like, be careful, make sure you're safe. But the other meaning that is subtext, but like Feyre's very clearly reading it, is like, be careful with what you're doing with old Lucian there. Like, you got like a little too close for comfort last night. Watch yourself. It is a 2-day ride to the next hole, even with winnowing and walking. Dagon is slow because he has to carry both his sister and Jurian. And so by the time they arrive, it is nighttime. And so they set up like a little camp. They're going to camp and then like go investigate the hole in the morning. Lucian and Feyre are supposed to share a tent, but Lucian, once they like start camping, he starts to get like nervous. He's like, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't share. Like, I don't know if Tamlin's going to love the fact that we're sharing a tent. He's a sensitive guy. And Feyre's like, don't be stupid. Like, you're not going to sleep outside because Tamlin might get the wrong impression about us. And she like goes on to say, like, when you yield to him and do everything that he wants you to do, it just makes him worse. He is used to getting his way, and he's not great at managing his own emotions. And the fact that everyone just kind of yields to those whims does not make things better for him. It actually just emboldens him to get worse. And Lucian is like, it's because you guys haven't hooked up yet. He's like very feeling extra sensitive because you haven't even kissed him on the mouth. And Feyre's like, I need time to heal. You don't even understand how traumatic it was for me to live at Night Court. And they discuss kind of the deal with Hybern and whether it would be possible for the Spring Court to get out of this deal with Hybern. And Lucian's like, no, I really don't see any way for Tamlin to get out of this agreement because he made a magical bargain with Hybern. And so if he were to break that bargain, it would like likely kill him. And they talk about how kind of upset Tamlin was in the kind of days after her kidnapping, and how he had executed the sentries that had been on guard the day that Mor came to snatch Feyre up. And Lucian like really tried to talk him down, but he couldn't get through to him. He couldn't reason with him. And then he's like, we really had no choice but to join forces with Hybern because like we have enemies in every court, and like we needed someone to stand up for us. And Feyre's like, I don't buy it for a single second. You guys are evil, and you're hanging out with evils. The next morning, Jurian comes into their tent to like wake them up. I don't know why Jurian's on wake up duty, but he is. Feyre knows that the first thing he's going to tell Tamlin when he gets back is that Lucian and Feyre were very snuggled up together when Jurian came to get them in the morning. Shortly after this, Feyre's taking a bath in the creek nearby, and Bronwyn is like, I'd pick Lucian too. She's like, given the choice between Tamlin and Lucian, I also would pick Lucian. The Autumn Court baddies have fire in their blood. And she talks about how she like had a good time with Autumn Court when they were in the last war together. And Feyre is very judgy of this. And you know what? I love that for Bronwyn. I think that's fun. Feyre is being a little bit judgy about it, and I think she has no place to hold judgment because I know it's coming for her when it has to do with like romance and war. And it is probably one of the most giggles about lines in this book, or in this whole series, to be honest, is coming in this book. And it does have to do with some choices that are made during a war situation. So Feyre, bestie, maybe stop judging this one. Let this girl hook up with whoever she wants to in the court. Like, this is the least of our concerns. The girlie is evil, but it's unrelated to her proclivities for the Autumn Court. They hike out to the hole, and they are like ready to go. I don't know. I don't really know what the twins are doing. They're just like looking at the hole and being like, will this serve our purposes? Great. They go to do that at the hole. And this time there are 3 children of the blessed staring back at them on the other side of the wall. The twins are clearly like so excited to see these humans. Clearly not because they're like gonna be friends with them, but because they're gonna eat them as a snack. And Jurian is ready with his sword. The trio is 2 girls and a boy, and they're like kneeling down. They're so excited to see some like real live fae. And Jurian is like, what are you doing here? And the dark-haired girl, the first girl we talked to, says, we've come to dwell in the immortal lands. We have come as tributes. And Lucian is like, we don't accept tributes, especially not children. And Feyre's like, these guys are not really children. Like, they're almost my age. Like at this point, Feyre's 20. And the kids are like maybe 17. She's like, those guys we probably went to school together. Like, what? Children. They're like practically adults like me. Prologue is like, come on over. We can enjoy ourselves. We'll have like a really great time. Come over. Come party with the Fae. And Feyre like shoves these children of the blessed back through the wall and says, go back to your families and your villages. If you cross this wall, you will die. The children of the blessed are like, no, we don't want to go back to our families. We're so excited to live with you. And Feyre continues to be like, no, if you come over here, you will literally die. Like, I'm not joking around. It will not be a fun time if you come over here. And they aren't listening, so Feyre goes into their minds and sees, like, how terrible their lives are. Like, they're not having nice human lives. They're, like, her in a lot of ways, and how much of a struggle it was to live in the human world. It, like, makes Prithian seem like a much better option. And so she shows them how deadly the Fae are. She plants memories of just like all of the terrible things that she's had to endure. And they're back it up as Feyre plants these memories in their minds. And the twins continue to be like, come on, it'll be like so fun. We're going to have so much fun. It'll be so cute. And then the three of them run away. And Feyre warns the twins that if they follow the humans, you and I will have a problem. Like, this is clearly like a no-go zone. And then afterwards, Jurian thanks her, which is kind of like interesting. Like, Jurian, you're on the side of the evil guys that are trying to like enslave and capture the humans, which again, I like don't know why anyone is buying this situation. Not to spoil later in the book, but like maybe we'll learn more about Jurian. But like, Jurian was on the human side before, because Jurian was human. He was an eyeball for a while. I don't know if he came back as like fully human. I think he is human, just like formerly eyeballed human, who's now like 500 years old. I don't know. I really don't know what the deal is exactly with Jurian, but like he's very much human sympathetic. So it's like confusing to me why everyone's like, now he's teamed up with Hybern. Like Amarantha, one of Hybern's like top generals, had him as a eyeball ring for decades, centuries. Like, we need to be asking Jurian more questions. Like, what the heck are you doing, my friend? I guess what we're supposed to believe is because, like, a girl dumped him. They spend another night in the woods. Feyre winds up alone with Jurian sitting around the fire, and she's, like, really feeling exhausted. Like, her power is feeling, like, quite used up. She knows she's had to use, like, a lot of it with the winnowing and with the, like, going in the minds of these kids, and also with, like, the defenses she's tried to keep up around herself, and also Tamlin and Lucien. And she's just, like, really feeling worn down on her power. And Jurian asks her, what happens to the ones who do make it through the wall? And Feyre's like, I don't know. I don't think it ends well. I've never encountered mention of any humans making it through the wall in any court, so I think they die pretty quickly. And Jurian says to her, we were their slaves and whores and laborers for millennia. Men and women fought and died, so we'd never have to serve them again. Yet, there they are, in those costumes, unaware of the danger, the history. And Feyre says, careful, or you might not sound like Hybern's faithful pet. And Jurian says, that's what you think I am, isn't it? His dog? Feyre's like, well, what is the end goal then, if your goal is not to enslave the humans? Seems like you're opposed to that, and that kind of seems like Hybern's deal. And he says, I have unfinished business. Feyre says, Miriam's dead. And then Jurian kind of goes on to explain like what happened with the last war. He says, everything I did for the war was for Miriam and me. She was the one who told me to seduce Clythia for information. And Feyre says, so all of this to get Miriam back? And Jurian says it's to draw her out of that little nest with that winged prick and make her regret it. And Feyre's like, you got a second shot at life, and that's what you wish to do with it? Revenge? And Jurian says, well, isn't that what you're doing? And Feyre's like, against the Night Court and Rhys? Yeah, I would like that one day. And Jurian says, you forget that I knew Rhys during the war. He risked his whole legion to save Miriam. And he kind of explains what happened, that Amarantha had a trap for Prince Draken. It sounds like, I think Miriam went in first and Rhys went against orders to go get Miriam out. And he says she did this for like his friend, for my lover, and for that bastard Draken. Yet everyone insists that Rhysand is soulless, wicked, but the male I knew was the most decent of them all. You don't lose that quality, no matter the centuries. Rhys was too smart to do anything but have the vilification of his character be a calculated move. And yet, here you are, his mate. The most powerful High Lord in the world lost his mate and has not yet come to claim her, even when she is defenseless in the woods. Jurian chuckled. Perhaps that's because Rhysand has not lost you at all, but rather unleashed you upon us. And Feyre's like, oh, you just love to hear yourself talk, don't you? Jurian just says, Hybern will kill all of you. I love this little chatty moment with Jurian. Jurian is not my favorite. I find him annoying, and I kind of feel Amarantha is a little bit justified in being pissed about. I mean, Amarantha's not, rest in peace, Amarantha. I love her. She was such a great villain. But I really feel like she's kind of justified in the Jurian situation. Lucien and Feyre wake up in the morning and they immediately smell blood. They wake up to the smell of human blood. And pretty quickly Feyre realizes like it's mortal blood, and they come out of their tent and they're like ready to go after the twins because clearly the twins have probably gone for the humans. Jurian is stoking the fire and he says, "You're too late. They finished 2 hours ago." And we learned that the twins had snuck out the night before and gone to the wall and found them. Like, it was pretty easy. The humans moved like quite slowly compared to what the Fae could do. They were able to find them quickly, and they killed all of them. And Feyre says, "Do you think it was for sport or to send us a message?" And Lucien says, "I think they aren't accustomed to being denied. I'd call this an immortal temper tantrum." And Lucien and Feyre's like, "Okay, should we go bury the bodies? Like, give them some semblance of like dignity there." And Lucien doesn't think so, because it really will send the message that they're willing to clean up the twins' messes. And that's like not something they want to do. They don't want Hybern to think that like they will like come behind them and kind of like fix and like smooth over everything that's happening. Feyre says, "Okay, then we'll send another sort of message." That's how that chapter ends. And the next chapter we get, they're back at the spring court and Tamlin is yelling at them. Tamlin and Lucien and Feyre are all in the room and they're kind of fighting over what happened with the twins. And Tamlin is like pissed. He's mad. He like cannot believe what they did. He is lecturing them for retaliating against the twins like children. And Feyre is like generally her point, and the reason she's so upset about this is because it really seems like Tamlin is treating the humans like they're dispensable, that he does not care about these humans getting murdered at the hands of the twins and in the long term at the hands of Hybern. And she's having this fight with him, Lucien's there as well, and eventually Tamlin turns to Lucien and tries to kick him out of his office. She says, "I'll deal with you later." And Feyre says, "Do not talk to him like that. Like, that is not how we talk to our friends." And Tamlin is like, "You have jeopardized this alliance with that stunt you pulled." And Feyre says, "Good, they can burn in hell for all I care. Like, I don't care about this alliance, Tamlin. I don't get it through your thick skull. I don't think we should be allied with Hybern. I think they're evil." And then we get the story of what because then Tamlin says, "You sent the bogey after them." And then we get the story of how Lucien and Feyre tracked the bogey down and then lured it to camp and had it like chase the twins. Essentially, the twins did get away, but like they're cranky about the encounter and they know that like Lucien and Feyre were behind it. I think Lucien says this actually. "Tam, those humans were barely more than children. Feyre gave the royals an order to stand down. They ignored it. If we let Hybern walk all over us, we stand to lose more than their alliance. The bogey reminds them that we are without our claws too." And this time, Tamlin yells at Lucien again, and this time he does actually leave. And then Feyre is like, "You do not get to speak to me like that. You promised you wouldn't act this way, not after what I went through to get back here, to you and our people. You whored us out to Hybern. Forgive me if I'm now trying to regain some of what we lost. You might be willing to get on your knees for Hybern, but I certainly am not." She is like lecturing him back, and he gets so mad that he once again explodes the room and all the furniture. We've been here before. I think we've seen this film before. And this time Feyre doesn't shield herself against the like exploding furniture. She lets it smack against her. She gets like hit in the stomach with a table. Her forehead is like bleeding. And Lucien like comes back in. He must have just been standing in the hallway. Truly, he must have literally just left and stood in the hallway. But like everyone sees the aftermath of this and sees Feyre standing there bruised and bleeding and Tamlin standing amongst all this broken furniture. And Lucien comes in and is like, "What have you done?" And he like walks over to Feyre and is like, "Okay, come on, let's go get you cleaned up." And outside, the sentries are also watching. Tamlin is immediately apologetic. He like did not mean to hurt Feyre. And Feyre is trying to like assure him. She's like, "I'm fine, I'm sorry." And she, again, the guards in the hallway, I think we have Braun and Hart, are like two sentries that are named kind of again and again, witness this out in the hallway. And they have kind of seen, they've been there from the beginning. They're back in Mist and Fury as well. And they've kind of seen a lot of Feyre's mistreatment at the hands of Tamlin, but like this is the first time Feyre has been like physically injured via Tamlin, I think. And they like clearly are a little rattled by it. Feyre thinks to herself, "And if I could have painted that moment, I would have named it A Portrait in Snares and Baiting." Oh my gosh, I love scheming Feyre. She's my fave. The moment she's like alone, she's in the bath by herself, Rhys calls down the bond to check in with her, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm a little sore, but nothing I can't handle." He like felt that like burst of kind of like fear that happens. I mean, Feyre did scheme the whole thing, but I think still a little stressful. And Rhys is like, "I know better than to tell you to be careful or to come home, but I want you home soon. And I want him dead for putting a hand on you." And I do want to like pause. We're going to pause the recap for a second. And we're going to chat about this because I am currently rereading From Blood and Ash over on Patreon and doing a recap of that to like prepare for the last book. And I have been kind of struck by the differences in which Jennifer and Sarah handle this kind of like conversation between the romantic partners. I guess they're both like spouses, the spousal partners, and at the center of both of these stories, this idea of like, how do we have a story in which we express like care and concern for the other without constraining them? Because I do think that is a tenuous line to walk. And I'm reminded of like a couple things. First thing is, I'm reminded of this TED Talk that I saw ages ago where this woman was talking about the whole like thesis of her TED Talk was that like we tell little boys to be brave and we tell little girls to be careful, and those messages like really dictate how they interact with the world. And it reminded me, this article I've brought up like multiple times. I love it so much. I think it's so fascinating. This article by Iris Marion Young called Throwing Like a Girl, and this idea that in general, like women have like a much more distrustful relationship with their own bodies because they've been told to take care so often that they like view their bodies as something like fragile that they cannot trust, where boys are like taught to innately like trust their bodies. And so they have like a much more embodied experience of life, where women like don't, on the whole, trust their bodies as much to like do what they tell them to do. And they're allowed to like much more careful with themselves than boys of like similar everything else would be. And I do think that Sarah J. Maas does the best job, I think, of any fantasy book I have read, of like treading that line between like empowering her female characters and giving them agency over their own bodies without them seeming careless or reckless of the consequences. Because one of the problems that I've encountered as I've read from Blood and Ash, one thing that has kind of like something I've rubbed up against a few times is this kind of recklessness that Poppy almost has, in which, because she is like, my body is my own, I like can use it to fight people, and right, like it is a source of power for her, that she's like reckless with it, that there seems to be like a carelessness and a sense that like there aren't consequences for her. She like is indifferent to her own body in a way that Feyre isn't. And I think it is like a much better straddling of this line in which Feyre is like empowered to do dangerous things, but also there is this awareness of the consequences of her actions, which also, sorry for this like long aside, but I am like, this is something that I'm deeply curious about and like always thinking about, which is just like bodies in romantasy. It reminds me a little bit of like Montessori parenting. I do not have children, and I've never been in Montessori, but like just deeply fascinated by like different parenting. I've worked with younger kids before. Anyway, Montessori, one of the things that they like don't do is you're not supposed to tell kids to be careful. That's like a no-no, but you are supposed to ask them if they like have a plan. Like, do you have a plan on how you're gonna get down? Like what is your plan for, I think, again, don't know this super well, but this idea of like, just because we're not telling someone to be careful doesn't mean that we also need to like disregard consequences, especially in situations like these. Like, this is a quite dangerous situation. Like, Feyre is not at risk of like needing some stitches, breaking a bone. This is like a life or death situation. And like often these women are in situations that could very easily cost them their lives. And I think it is dumb to like pretend that there are no consequences for their actions and that the people around them wouldn't want them to take care, to be cognizant of those consequences for their bodies, but at the same time empower them to make their choices and use their bodies to move through the world in an empowered sort of way. And I do think this moment, it like exemplifies that, in which Rhys is like, I know better than to tell you to be careful or to come home, but like, I want you home. Right? Like, it's less about her and it's about him. It's an I statement. We love it. Also, he said, I'm going to kill this man, which we always love. Her and Rhys tease back and forth for a little bit, and Rhys ends the mental phone call with a dirty joke. The next day, Feyre goes on a ride with Bronn and Hart, those two sentries that had seen her. She wants them to see her like full bruised self and how like hard and sore she is moving around as they go on a horse ride. The next day, Tamlin had, of course, immediately like begged her for forgiveness, and Feyre had obliged, but Lucien hadn't seemed as eager to accept that apology. They have to delay their trip to the Wall for a few days because Feyre is so sore she couldn't travel for that far, and the twins and Jurian are not thrilled about that. They're sulking about it a little bit. And Ianthe comes to Feyre later and explains that like Tamlin confessed to her, pleading for absolution from the mother. And Feyre is like, well, obviously I forgave him. We are so lucky to have both of you guarding our lands. That Feyre is like, that was a threat. because when 7 Naga break into their estate that night, Ianthe saves the day with a vision that like told her it would happen. We learned that like a sentry, remember what I mentioned, the key had gone missing? So a sentry's key had gone missing when he fell asleep, and Ianthe's like, well, we can't let him go unpunished. Like, he's the reason that these Naga were able to get into the estate. And so he's like sentenced to be whipped 21 times. And there's like some conversation around like what happened, and Feyre goes into his mind and loosens his tongue for him so he can explain like what actually happened, and that it was Ianthe that took the keys from him. And Feyre had kind of seen, I don't know if she saw it all happen, but she like was very suspicious of it after the solstice because she was keeping an extra eye on Ianthe because she knew Ianthe was going to be plotting something to kind of reclaim her power within the estate. And Ianthe's like, well, why would I take the keys? That doesn't make any sense. I warned you of the attack. So like, why would I take the keys? And the sentry that's going to be whipped says, I saw you that night. And there is this clear sense that he is more worried about the loss of honor, of losing his like role as like this royal sentry, like this very important role, that he would lose all sense of like respectability when it came to that by letting these Naga into the estate, and like he didn't actually do that, and so that loss of honor is important to him rather than like the lashings. And Ianthe tries to be like, well, likely story, like who are you gonna believe, me or him? And Feyre's like, no, shh, I want to hear his story. And Ianthe says, with all due respect, my lady, it is not your judgment to make. And Feyre ignores her and says, I will hear your story. And then he explains, and Ianthe says, you'll take the word of a sentry over that of a high priestess. And Tamlin does. Like, Tamlin ignores the sentry's story, and it's enough for the guards and the sentries that are watching this exchange to happen to realize that Ianthe is lying. And Tamlin kind of realizes it too, and also still whips the man. There was a heartbeat of hesitation from Bronn, as if the shock of Tamlin's order rippled through him, through all the guards, siding with Ianthe over them, his sentries, who had gone over the wall again and again to try to break that curse for him, who had gladly done it, gladly died, hunted down as those wolves for him. And the wolf I'd felt, Andres, he had gone willingly too. Tamlin had sent them all over. Not all of them came back. They had gone willingly. Yet this was his thanks, his gratitude, his trust. Like, these sentries have been happily risking life and limb for Tamlin, and he can't even, like, he doesn't even trust them enough to accept their story. Not great. Big cracks in the foundation of Springcourt. The guards are, like, not happy about this, and it is this like real realization for like the people of Springcourt that Tamlin has turning against his people, his men, and placing Ianthe and Hybern above their needs and safety. And then Feyre kind of like is overwhelmed watching these lashings at kind of like the violence of them, and she does use this as another moment to lean into Lucien. We gotta plant some more seeds of doubt between the boys too. After that, Ianthe continues to be up to shenanigans. She does not go back to her temple. She stays and tries to like really ingratiate herself to Tamlin. After the lashings, Ianthe, Tamlin, and the Hybern crew went inside for lunch, but Feyre stays to tend to that sentries for like hours, like while the healers see to him, until Bronn and Hart escort her back to the house. And she apologizes to them about not being able to prevent it. She's like, I'm so sorry I wasn't able to prevent that. I like don't think it was fair. And the boys say to her, like, we're sorry we hadn't stopped any of it either. And it's very clear that they mean not that incident with the sentries, but everything that had happened to Feyre. Not just the thing that had happened the night before with Tamlin exploding in that office, but like all of the small abuses that she had endured over the months she spent between Under the Mountain and leaving for Night Court. The next evening, Ianthe announces that her and Tamlin are coming on their last field trip to the final hole in the wall. Feyre is packing up, and Alice brings her a third bag and is like, I thought you might need this because it's a longer trip. Feyre's like, thank you. And Alice says, when you leave tomorrow, I leave too. They're headed back to the summer court, her and her nephews, because she says, it's been too long since I saw my home. And Feyre says, I know the feeling. And then she's like, also, like, maybe don't mention me to Tarquin. Just a warning, Tarquin might have a blood ruby with my name on it. So don't tell him you saw me, okay? Or that you were friends with me. He probably won't love that. Alice says, blood rubies or no, you will always have one friend in the summer court. And that is Alice. So you always have one bad friend in the summer court. I will be an Alice hater till the day I die. Feyre says, and you will always have one in mine. I promised. She knew which court I meant and did not look afraid. Feyre's headed back home. They head out. The sentries are clearly so mad at Tamlin still. They are not speaking unless necessary, like unless directly spoken to and needing a response. Winnowing today is feeling just like so exhausting for Feyre. Her magic is like really getting used up, she's thinking, from all of this guarding and all the like mental snares and things that she's laid, but like she's never felt to this drained with her magic before. Feyre is sharing a tent with Ianthe instead of Tamlin. She like really wants to get out of sharing a tent with Tamlin, mostly to give like Lucian some freedom from Ianthe. She wanted to make sure Lucian and Ianthe weren't trapped in a tent together, because she knows that Ianthe has been quite predatory towards Lucian in the past. But it's like really hard work to not slit Ianthe's throat in the night. She recites her family's names, include like the whole inner circle and also her sisters, to like remind herself why she's there. She's like, this is bigger than revenge. I cannot kill this woman. She thinks to herself, I wasn't sure I'd been born with the ability to forgive, not for terrors inflicted on those I loved. For myself, I didn't care, not nearly as much. But there was some fundamental pillar of steel in me that could not bend or break in this, could not stomach the idea of letting these people get away with what they had done. I love this. I love the scheming Feyre we see in this, because it is like so fueled by rage. It is like thoughtful and calculated, but it is so rage fueled. And I do think Nesta haters sometimes forget that Sarah J. Maas has said on page multiple times that like Feyre and Nesta are like this two sides of the same coin. Like both of these girls run on rage. They like really feel like they have this like inner darkness that like rules them, and obviously like it presents like quite differently. Like Feyre and Nesta are like very different girls, although I think like if we saw like a healed and secure and safe Nesta, I think she might look a lot more similar to Feyre in a lot of ways. But yeah, I like love this reminder of like Feyre's rage. Feyre has her knife out and she's like thinking about killing Ianthe. Ianthe wakes up, and I just imagine Feyre is just like looming over her with a knife, being like, I should kill you, but I won't. She's a little freaked out, as she should be. They go ahead and show the twins the hole in the wall, and then somehow Feyre winds up being like the only one there with the twins, and Feyre's just like chilling in the corner eating an apple as the twins like investigate the hole, and they're arguing about which of the 3 holes that they saw will be better for their purposes. Well, Feyre just like chills, and Feyre offers her thoughts about like which one would work the best, and they're like quite dismissive. They're like, you don't even know what we're planning on using it for. And she's like, well, aren't you planning on using it to like move armies from here into the human realms? And they're like, no, the cauldron is not for moving armies. They're planning to use the cauldron's power to blow up the wall, to like essentially like completely demolish the wall entirely. And Feyre says, I think with an army of 10,000 you wouldn't need any magical objects to do your dirty work. And Prologue sneers, our army is 10 times that, girl, and twice that number if you count our allies in Valhallan, Montessori, and Rask. Don't even worry, Feyre did get an A+ in her reschool math class, and so she knows that's 200,000 people. And she's like, oh shit. Essentially, she's like, that is not great for us, because we definitely do not have that many people, so tricky for us. And Feyre's like, oh, that's so interesting. Why didn't you do this while Amarantha held the land? Like, it seems like it would have been easier if you hadn't waited until she lost control of everything. And Prologue says, the king had not yet found the cauldron, despite years of searching. It served his purposes to let her be an experiment for how we might break these people, and served as good motivation for our allies in the continent to join us, knowing what could await them. And then goes on to kind of explain that, like, some of the forces will be sent to Prythian first, and that they'll use the cauldron to, like, kind of, like, get rid of the wall between the human and Fae realms. And the cauldron they'll bring the cauldron to these holes. The cauldron will study the holes and then use that to replicate it, but better. And they're like, we can't really explain how, because it's a really crazy complicated process and you probably wouldn't understand it because you just got like a mortal brain. So okay, well, little do you know, they did cauldron learning in reschool. They had a guest lecture of Amren, and Feyre actually knows a lot about the cauldron, so she probably could understand it. I forgot this part happened. Feyre says, probably, though this mortal mind did manage to solve Amarantha's riddle and destroy her. Girl, you barely solved Amarantha's riddle, and also it wasn't that hard of a riddle. I think Feyre gets like a lot of crap for the riddle, and you know what? I probably wouldn't have guessed the riddle answer either, because if she got the riddle wrong, like, it was immediate death. So like, and like with riddles, like, you're never quite sure if that's the answer someone's looking for with the riddle. So I like don't know if I would have shouted out an answer anyway. Also, you know, she was like not in her best condition. She couldn't even read. Like, leave her alone about solving the riddle. But I also don't think that is, like, the pinnacle of intellectualism. Like, I don't think solving Amarantha's riddle means, like, you are the most brilliant minds that has ever existed. And the fact that Feyre thinks it is a little concerning to me, actually. Bless her sweet baby heart. Anyway, she leaves and she's like, okay, I think I've got enough information. Time for me to go. She picks up her little backpack. She, like, repacks everything up. She's alone at the camp now. She sends the sentries away. There's a couple sentries, like, guarding her. She's like, hey, guys, can you actually go pick up some water for me? I need more to make a poultice for my bruises. And they're like, okay. She's, like, ready. She's leaving the spring court behind. She thinks to herself, is like, I've left the spring court in wreckage. I had a people who had lost faith in their high priestess. I had sentries who were beginning to rebel against their high lord. And as a result of those things, I had Hybern royals doubting the strength of their allies here. I'd primed this court to fall, not from outside forces, but from its own internal warring. And the scheme is essentially for Feyre to run, but to make sure that the sentries, she, like, primed these sentries to believe that she's run away in order to save her own life, that, like, Tamlin is just, like, so volatile that Feyre, like, couldn't stay. She had to get out. She says she had to, like, make sure that there would be no further alliance, for there would be no sentries or denizen of this court who would stand with Tamlin or Ianthe after me. So she sneakily runs over. She snatches Tamlin's bandolier of knives. And then she heads out. She's like, I'm ready to go home. She's like, I'll be home in 1 hour. If I just, like, keep winnowing, if I, like, winnow a few times, I will be home before dinner. I wonder what Rhys is making for me. Like, she's so excited. She's out of there. She's heading to the tree line so she can, like, start her winnowing. Unfortunately, on her way, she hears Lucien. And he yells, back off, through the trees. And then she hears Ianthe's laughter. Feyre, just leave him. Leave him behind. He would leave you behind. You know it. You've watched him do it. But she's better than me. She's better than Lucien. Because she does go to Lucien. She goes to his aid. She walks into this clearing. She sees Lucien has been, like, handcuffed with these, like, magic melting handcuffs to a tree while Ianthe is, like, coming on to him, essentially. Eventually, Ianthe is gonna, like, assault him. And Lucian's like, please, I'm a mated male now. And Ianthe's like, you don't act that way with Feyre. You put your hands all over her. And like, Lucian's like, that's not what's happening. And Lucian's like, don't touch me. And Feyre's like, ugh. She goes to help him. Ianthe is currently, like, caressing his bare chest. And Feyre comes in and is like, that's enough. Like, we're not doing this, Ianthe. And Ianthe is like, we are in the middle of a game, Feyre. We will return to camp when we are done. And Feyre slams into Ianthe's mind with her magic and sees all the men that Ianthe has done this to. And Feyre is like, take your hands off of him and unshackle him. And she's in her mind. And so Ianthe, like, complies, her face vacant. Lucien is watching all of this happen and is like, and then Feyre says, pick up that rock, put your right hand on that boulder, and smash your hand with that rock until I tell you to stop. Okay. And Feyre lets her go for a while. She lets her go until her bones are cracking, fingers are pointing the wrong direction, she's bleeding. Like, she lets Ianthe mangle her own hand. And then she says to Ianthe, you will never touch another person against their will. You will never convince yourself that they truly want your advances, that they are playing games. You will never know another's touch unless they initiate, unless it's desired by both sides. You will not remember what happened here. You will tell the others that you fell. You are not allowed to see you are allowed to see a healer to set the bones, but not to erase the scarring. And every time you look at that hand, you are going to remember that touching people against their will has consequences. And if you do it again, everything you are will cease to exist. You will live with that terror every day and never know where it originates from. Only the fear of something chasing you, hunting you, waiting for the instance that you let your guard down. You can stop now. Kneel here until someone finds you. And Lucien is just staring at her. She's like, what the heck just happened? And then Feyre says, the word you're looking for, Lucien, is Damati. This is, like, the high point for Feyre. Things are about to go downhill for Feyre. This is the high point of her scheming. She's like, I am the scheming queenie. The queenie of schemes. Bless her sweet heart. She thinks she is the queenie of schemes. She's not. We know who the queenie of schemes is, but we love this for her. We love that she thinks she's the queenie of schemes. Like, I'm glad she's having a great time. Things will go downhill really quickly. We have to remember that Ianthe, I think this feels, like, kind of brutal for, like, what she was doing to Lucien, but we have to remember that Ianthe, one, had tried to do this to Rhys. Not cool. That's her husband. And also, she is the reason her sisters got turned fae. Like, she kidnapped her sisters. And like Feyre's not gonna let that stand. Obviously. She can't. Anyway, like I said, this was the height of her scheming. Things immediately go downhill because the twins step into the clearing. They're like, hi, we just saw all of that unfold. They're like, where are you going, Feyre? Because Feyre has her backpack, and she's headed out. And Feyre's like, I have to go. I like don't want to be here anymore, so I'm leaving actually. And the twins are like, no, you're supposed to stay and help us. The King of Hybern would be so mad if we let you get away. And it's very clear that they're planning on murdering Lucien and kidnapping Feyre in this moment. And Feyre is like, don't care about that. Take the spring court. It's going to fall one way or another, but like, I am leaving. Like, I got a jet. I got a date with my hot husband at home, you know? And the twins are like, okay, well, we planned to take the spring court, obviously. But like, then there's the matter of you. And they're like, haven't you noticed that your magic has felt a little weaker than usual? Like, your bonds have been muffled, you've had these headaches, it's been harder to do simple things. They're like, we've actually been poisoning you. Ianthe had this, like, we gave Ianthe this powder and we said, put this in everybody's food. And Ianthe said, okay, bet. And she did. They were like, we didn't even have to go in her mind, actually. We were like prepared to. And then Ianthe was like, sounds good, I'll do it. Anyway, this powder has like slowly been kind of like tampering with her magic, like muffling it, making it smaller and smaller. And they're like, but also the apple should kick it at any moment. Because Feyre at this point still has access to her magic. It is feeling a little bit harder, but like it's enough for she should be able to get out of this situation. But then they say the thing about the apple. And then the princess, Dagon, says, we've been Damate for thousands of years, girl. But you, what a valiant effort you put up trying to shield them from us all. And then the twins explain that the apple that Feyre was eaten was grown in the king's personal garden and laced with Faebane. Faebane was the powder that Ianthe was sprinkling all their food. And this apple was grown like with Faebane. So it's like incorporated into the entirety of the apple. And it should knock out her power for like a few days once it like hits her system. They're like, clearly we noticed that you were packing. You brought like all your stuff with you. You brought everything you owned with you on this trip. That was for 4 days. Like, we knew you were leaving. And the King of Hybern wants Feyre. They're, like, supposed to bring Feyre back to the King of Hybern. And Feyre's like, okay, well, anyway, I got a jet. I gotta go. Because she knows that she doesn't have very long before the magic kicks in and, like, muffles her magic. So she needs to winnow to someplace safe where she can, like, wait it out. But she doesn't really want to leave Lucien behind, even though he's like, get out of there, go, 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 because she knows if she leaves Lucien behind, Lucien's going to be dead. That's going to be it for Lucien. And so Feyre makes her choice, and she's a good person. So she, instead of winnowing away, winnows to stab Dagon. She's unable to go deep enough to kill him because of his armor, but she injures him, and she winnows again. This time Dagon's holding on to her, so he comes with her. He's fighting incredibly well as they like winnow and fight together, but he's also like, he's a general. Like, he should be beating Feyre's butt, and he's not. It's clear that he's, like, waiting for the apple to kick in so her magic will be gone. Feyre heads for Bragon, hitting her with a wall of flames. She's, like, screaming. She's, like, cooked alive. She's still alive. This time, Dagon doesn't pull his punches. He's, like, coming at her full force. Then Lucien decides to step in, and he cuts off Bragon's head. And while Dagon is distracted with this, Feyre stabs Dagon through the eyeball with a sword. They're both dead. She kills both of them. She says to Ianthe, you tell them I killed them in self-defense after they hurt me so badly while you and Tamlin did nothing. Even when they torture you for the truth, you say that I fled after I killed them to save this court from their horrors. Lucien says, you're going back to the night court? And Feyre says, yeah. And Lucien says, I'm coming with you. Feyre's like, no, you're not. I'm going by myself. Bye. And Lucien's like, you won't make it back without magic. I'm coming with you, and I'm getting my mate back. And Feyre's like, fine, don't make her regret this. They are able to winnow like once or twice before Feyre's magic is like completely exhausted. They make it to like the foothills of these mountains. Lucien's magic is already gone. All of them must have been dosed with this Faebane. And Feyre has kind of taken them to this area where there are these like doors that lead to the other courts. This is like how she got to Under the Mountain the first time. Now we really told about these doors that like connect multiple of the courts together. And they'll have to go to Autumn Court because the 3 doors that they're at are to Under the Mountain, to Summer Court, or to Autumn Court. And Under the Mountain has been like sealed off. It's like completely sealed up down there. So like there's no way to get like through it to Night Court. And Summer Court, she knows if she's caught in Summer Court, they're going to kill her. Because like a blood ruby. And so they'll have to go through Autumn Court. And Lucian warns her, like, Autumn Court will be just as dangerous as Summer. I honestly think she would have been better off going through Summer Court. Like, Tarquin said he was going to kill her, but would he on sight? Like, probably not. Like, he's probably going to be, like, a little bit nicer. He's probably going to use her as a bargaining chip with Reese. She'll have a nice time. I think she thinks she should have gone to Summer Court. Also, she could have been, I, like, don't know. Like, everyone in Autumn Court is evil, and, like, I feel like people are less evil in Summer Court. As a general rule. And I also just don't think Tarquin would have actually murdered her. Whatever. They decide to go to Autumn Court. Feyre's like, we just need to be there for, like, a little bit. We just need somewhere to like, hide out while my magic, like, restores. And then we can, like, winnow our booties out of there. And Lucian is like, I know a place. They reach the door to Autumn Court. Lucian is looking, like, quite nervous about going through it. And Feyre's like, you can stay here. Like, you don't have to come with me. She knows that the Spring Court is going to fall to Hybern. That was kind of like their plan. But there was, like, no good way for Night Court to take over, because Spring Court is so weak that, like, technically Night Court could come in and, like, take over it. But, like, there's no way for them to, like, effectively rule from Night Court. They're, like, so far apart that it just, like, doesn't work. So it makes more sense to let it fall to Hybern, but, like, them to not have, like, a strong ally in Spring Court, just to have, like, the land, essentially. And then the chapter ends like this. You were right, Lucian declared at last. That girl that I knew died under the mountain. I wasn't sure if it was an insult, but I nodded all the same. At least we can agree on that. I stepped into the awaiting cold and dark. Lucian fell into step beside me as we strode beneath the archway of carved, crude stone, our blades out as we left behind the warmth and green of eternal spring. And in the distance, so faint I thought I might have imagined it, a beast's roar cleaved the land. Tamlin just found out she's gone, and he's not happy about it. Poor Tim Tam. Okay. That's the end of part 1, Princess of Carrion. Next part is her travel back to Night Court. And then I don't remember what happens right away. I'm excited about it. I love this book so much. I love the ending. The ending is so good. The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria coming up. I feel like that's a spoiler if you know what's happening. But if not, you just think I'm talking about Christopher Columbus. There's no way for that to be a spoiler unless you know what's happening. But I do love the part with the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. It's not my favorite scene in the book, though. So if that was your guess, incorrect. Close. It's one of my favorites, but not me favorite. Not my most favorite. So excited to be back with Miss Sarah J. Maas. Loved my time with Carissa Broadbent. I don't know if I mentioned it here, but I did meet her. I went to a book signing, and she was so lovely. Lovely to see her. I chatted with her, asked her a question in the Q&A line, and just had, like, a great time. She's just announced the 4th book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. A little bookie news at the end here. It's called, like, The Lion and the Braveheart or something like that. Let's actually see. She told us about it before we got exclusive. She told us about it before it was announced. I think it was supposed to be announced this weekend. The Lion and the Deathless Dark, which is out next August. So that's a long time away. Join the Patreon if you want to join our From Blood and Ash reread. We are truly having the most fun. And by we, I mean mostly me. I'm having the most fun. I assume if you're watching, you're also having fun. I feel like if I'm having fun, you're probably having fun, right? And The Night and the Moth book club, also so great. I'm loving it. I don't think when I recorded the first part I had started it yet, but I have now, and I'm enjoying it so much. Like, I'm so excited. I was a little nervous because I wasn't the biggest fan of her first series, but I'm obsessed with this one so far. So great news for me. And for you, if you want to jump in and join the Patreon. Okay, I will see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.